Welcome back. Tata Consultancy Services or TCS has retained its #1 position in the 2023 Kantar BrandZ Top 75 Most Valuable Indian Brands report for second consecutive year with a brand value of $43 billion. HDFC Bank, Infosys and Airtel also hold on to their top 4 positions while State Bank of India rises 1 place to enter the top 5. India's top 75 brands have a combined value of $379 billion. However, a decline of 4% from 2022, but a modest decrease given the ongoing economic volatility across markets in the world. To tell us more, we are joined in by Deepender Rana, Executive Managing Director, South Asia Insights Division, Kantar, and Soumya Mohanty, Managing Director and Chief Client Officer, South Asia Insights Division, Kantar. So Deepender and Soumya, first, if you can share with us the key highlights of the report. Deepender, let's begin with you, and then Soumya, you can add on.
Sure. So the highlight is really the resilience of India and Indian brands. So they really held steady in tough times because, with the effect of inflation, war, interest rate increases, and the rest of the disruption, the global brand values have dropped by 20%, but India has held quite steady and is only 4% down. So what has really protected us is the resilience of the Indian domestic market, because about 60% of the consumption comes from domestic demand.
Sure. Over to you, Soumya. Some of the interesting things that you spotted, while coming up with the 75 top Indian brands list.
I think the most interesting thing, Shibani, would be what Rana was saying, that the continued importance of investing in brand. So it's clear that the brands that have held on to their equity, so the brands that we call it demand power. So the brands that have actually grown and held on to their demand power are the ones that have done better and have outperformed. And that's something we have been saying year after year after year, the need for investing in brands. And the other important thing that I think we are calling out this time particularly is the importance of maintaining differentiation. It's increasingly the market is getting fragmented. The entry barriers are reducing. There are a lot more players today than there were earlier. So it's really important not just to be relevant, but also to be consistently building upon your differentiation. And that's what, that's what FMCG players have done very well. So while you will see it's banking and automotive and telecom that dominate, FMCG has actually been pretty resilient across the years. And that's one of the reasons is they have been able to build differentiation in a consistent way.
Yeah, and it's also incidentally 10 years of the Kantar BrandZ report. I remember going for this launch event 10 years ago. I believe it happened at Four Seasons, if I'm not mistaken. Yes. So, Deepender, if you can share with us, how have the trends evolved, in shaping this 75 top most Indian valuable brands list over the past 10 years, and what are the factors that contribute to the brand value? How have they changed over the past 10 years?
Right. So I think one is the contrast between India and the rest of the world. India has been a spectacular growth story. So if you look at the value of the top 50 Indian brands, it's gone up 5 times almost, whereas our GDP has gone up about 80%. So you could clearly see that brands are really driving value creation in the economy at large. And then you do see, as one moves from just manufacturing or generic services, in our case B2B services, to much more of I would say branded offerings which are differentiated. That's what really creates the value. I mean, when you assemble an Apple phone, most of the value is still getting created in the US. That's the reality. So that's the power of branding, as opposed to just, let's say, manufacturing in India. And I think that's the transition India is beginning to make and will keep making. So the other thing is, globally, the top 50 or the top brands have grown only 2.5 times, whereas India has grown Indian top brands have grown 5 times. So that just shows how much, it's been India's decade. And then, of course, the forecasts are that it will continue to be India's decade as we move towards 2030.
Yeah.
So it's a story of continued success. And maybe Soumya can talk a bit more about...
Yes. And also the fact that how do, these top 10 brands in this list, because everyone is talking about, India as a shining beacon. All the business leaders are speaking about that. So how do these top 10 brands add to this entire India growth story?
So I'll just add to what Rana was saying in terms of what we have observed over the last decade. And there are actually 2 parts in which you can divide this period, the pre-COVID and the post-COVID. So if we look at when COVID happened, and if we look at the period after that, the building blocks of what drives brand growth shifted a bit. So it still remains the same. It's still brands need to be meaningful. They need to be differentiated. You need to know about them. But there are other factors like purpose, commitment to sustainability, which were not even present during the earlier times. There were other factors like trust and corporate responsibility, but they were not as important as they have emerged in the post-COVID period. And that's the difference that is sort of continuing, even as we are seeing this rebound back after COVID. So to some extent, Shibani, things have shifted. Consumers are looking for brands that stand for something. So having said that, now if we come back to the 10 brands that are the top performers, I mean, what binds it? They're across sectors. I mean, we have B2B tech brands, we have BFSI brands, and we have Airtel, which is a telecom brand. So they are cross-sectoral. What is remarkable about them is most of them have remained as consistently across the 10 years. So they have been able to actually understand what the customer wants and have been able to evolve with time. And that's what is important. So from whether we are talking about digital banking, whether we talk about the way Airtel has actually gone beyond the price wars to remain consistent to driving high value consumers and the kind of services they are looking for. So they have invested in their brand and they have remained consistent to their strategy and therefore their purpose. I think that's what is common. And the consistency is actually remarkable across these 10 brands and across the last decade.
Sure. All right. Thank you so much. Thanks for joining us today.
It was a pleasure, Shibani.
Pleasure.
With that, it's a wrap on Storyboard this week. You can catch all of our content on Facebook, Twitter and YouTube. Thanks for watching. We will be back same time next week. See you soon.